Dear viewers, they say charity begins at home, right? But what happens when home isn't safe? When the people who are supposed to love you the most turn into your worst nightmare? Charity screamed, "Mama! Help me!" Her voice raw, a desperate plea tearing through the night. The men laughed, their rough hands joining Amos's, holding her down as she thrashed, her small frame no match for their strength. Outside, Esther sat cross-legged on the floor, her fingers flicking through a stack of crumpled Naira note. It all started on a sunny afternoon, when Charity's father's body was brought home lifeless from the river. Charity fell to her knees, her small frame shaking, tears streaming down her face as the men carried Nenji's body into the yard. Her mother, Esther, ran out and wailed, her cries piercing the air as she threw herself to the ground, rolling uncontrollably in the dirt. The village gathered, their faces heavy with grief, but no one could undo what the river had done. Nenji had gone out fishing that morning, same as always, but a sudden squall came out of nowhere, those kinds of storms that make the sky black in minutes. The waves flipped his boat, and the river claimed him. They found his body the next day, tangled in the mangroves, his eyes closed like he was just sleeping. But he wasn't coming back. The whole village mourned him. Nenji was a good man, the kind who'd share his last fish with a neighbor. They wailed for him, sang for him, but no amount of singing could bring him back. Before that day, Charity's life was beautiful. She was born in Nembi, a little coastal town right along the rivers of Bayelsa. The air smelled like salt and fish, and the sun would paint these golden streaks across the water every morning. It was magic. Charity was the baby of the family, the youngest of three, with two big brothers who treated her like a princess. Her daddy, Nenji, was a fisherman, hands rough as sandpaper from hauling nets, but his smile? Warm as the morning sun, always ready to scoop her up and spin her around. Her mama, Esther, sold smoked fish at the market, and let me tell you, her laughter was like music, always filling their little mud brick home with joy. They didn't have much, but they had each other, and that was enough. Charity's giggle was the soundtrack of their lives. She'd run along the shore, chasing crabs with her bare feet splashing in the shallows, her voice ringing out like a little bell. Charity was a dreamer, you know? The kind of kid who had big plans, even in a place like Nembi where dreams don't always get to grow. At night, she'd sit by their little kerosene lamp, scribbling stories in an old notebook her daddy bought her from a trader passing through. She'd write about mermaids in the river, about flying to the moon, about being a teacher one day so she could help kids like her read and write their own stories. Her mama would sit there, watching her, and say, "Charity, you're my blessing. You're gonna make us proud." And for a while, it really seemed like she would. She was top of her class at the local school. Her teachers couldn't stop bragging about her quick mind, always saying, "That girl's going places." The whole community loved her. They called her Little Sunshine, because she was always smiling, always ready to help. She'd carry water for her neighbors, help the old women with their baskets, even share her roasted yam with the kids who didn't have any. That's just who she was, pure light. Life wasn't perfect, don't get me wrong. Nembi's a tough place, oil money flows through Bayelsa, but it doesn't trickle down to places like this. Most folks are just trying to get by, fishing, trading, doing whatever it takes to put food on the table. But there's a beauty in that struggle, you know? The way the community comes together, the way the river gives life even when it takes it away. Charity's family had their share of hard days. Sometimes the fish wouldn't bite, or the market wouldn't sell. But they had love, real love, the kind that keeps you warm even when the rain's pouring through the roof. And Charity? She was the heart of it all, the little girl who made everything brighter. After Nenji's death, Esther's warmth died too. You could see it in her eyes. They went cold, like the river on a moonless night. She stopped laughing, stopped smiling, just sat there at the market with her fish stall, staring at nothing. Money got tight real quick. The smoked fish business wasn't bringing in much anymore, people weren't buying like they used to, and Esther's debt started piling up. She'd mutter to herself, too many mouths to feed, her voice sharp, her hands clenched. Charity's brothers, 16 and 14, couldn't take it. They left for Port Harcourt, promising to find work and send money back. "We'll take care of you," they told Charity, hugging her tight before they left. But they were just kids themselves, and the city swallowed them whole. The calls stopped coming, the money never came, and Charity was left alone with a mama who didn't look at her the same anymore. Charity felt it, you know? The way her mama's eyes changed. Esther started looking at her like she was a problem, not a daughter. "Too many mouths to feed," she'd say, over and over, like Charity was a burden she didn't ask for. The village noticed it too. Neighbors started whispering, "Esther's not the same since Nenji passed," but nobody did anything. In Nembi, everybody's got their own struggles. Poverty's a heavy weight, and it makes you turn a blind eye sometimes, even when you know something's wrong. Charity tried to hold on to her dreams, but it was hard. She'd sit by the river, staring at the water, wondering if her daddy could see her from wherever he was. She'd whisper to him, "I miss you, Papa," hoping the river would carry her words to him. But the river doesn't answer back. Then came Amos. He showed up a few months after Nenji's death, like a shadow creeping into their lives. Amos was a big man, the kind who took up too much space, not just with his size but with the way he looked at you. His eyes lingered too long, his smile more a sneer than anything warm. Esther married him quick, saying, "We need a man's protection." That's what she told the neighbors, anyway, Mama Abi, who lived next door, and Papa Tombra, who'd known Nenji since they were boys. But protection came at a price. Amos wasn't there to protect nobody. He was there to take, and Charity was about to find out just how much he'd take from her. Charity was 15 when everything changed. She'd been trying to hold on, you know? Trying to be the good girl, the obedient daughter, even with her mama turning cold and Amos always watching her like a hawk. But then one evening, Esther came home looking different. There was this sly glint in her eye, like she'd figured out a secret. "I found a way to keep us afloat," she told Charity, her voice smooth, almost sweet, but there was something off about it. "You're good with your hands, Charity. You'll help with home service massages." Now, Charity didn't really get it at first. She thought, okay, maybe I'll be rubbing fishermen's backs, helping them relax after a long day on the water. She pictured earning a few naira, maybe enough to buy a new notebook, to start writing again. But this wasn't about massages, not the kind Charity thought, anyway. That first night, Amos called her to his room. "Massage my back," he grunted, his voice rough, like gravel underfoot. Charity hesitated, her stomach twisting, but Esther was right there in the doorway, nodding like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Go on, girl." "It's just a massage," she said, her voice flat, no warmth in it. So Charity went. She didn't have a choice, did she? Her small hands pressed into his skin, shaking a little, her heart pounding so loud she thought he'd hear it. His breathing got heavy, too heavy, and when he turned over, his grin was like a knife in the dark. "Good girl," he said, and then his hands, they moved where they had no business moving. She screamed. A scream that came from her soul, raw and guttural, tearing through that little house. "Mama! Help me," she begged, thrashing against him, her small body no match for his strength. And Esther came running. For a second, Charity thought she was saved. Her mama would stop this, pull her away, tell Amos to leave her alone. But when that door creaked open, Esther just stood there, silhouetted against the dim light, her face cold as stone. And then two other men stepped in behind her, strangers with leering grins, their eyes hungry. Esther's voice was like ice, cutting through Charity's cry. "It's high time you learn the family business, this is your job now." What happened next? Charity screamed, "Mama! Help me!" Her voice raw, a desperate plea tearing through the night. The men laughed, their rough hands joining Amos's, holding her down as she thrashed, her small frame no match for their strength. Outside, Esther sat cross-legged on the floor, her fingers flicking through a stack of crumpled naira notes, a faint smile curling her lips as she counted her profits. "Mama, please." Charity's cries grew hoarse, swallowed by the walls, but Esther didn't flinch, her eyes fixed on the money, her heart as cold as the river that claimed Nenji. That was the night Charity's childhood died. Esther had sold her own daughter, into prostitution, just like that. Night after night, men came. Fishermen from Nembi, traders passing through, even men from neighboring villages like Brass and Southern Ijaw. Esther would pocket the money, muttering things like, "We need to eat," and "You owe me." Charity's body became a battlefield, bruised and broken. She stopped counting the faces, stopped feeling the pain. She'd just lie there, staring at the ceiling, whispering to herself, "This isn't real. This isn't me." But the bruises on her arms, her thighs, her soul, they told a different story. Esther kept up the act, you know. To the neighbors, she'd say, "Charity's doing massages. Good money in it." And some of them, they had to know something was wrong. Nembi's small, and whispers travel fast, like the wind over the water. Mama Ebi, who lived next door, saw the way Charity walked now, head down, eyes empty. She'd ask, "Charity, you okay?" But Esther would swoop in, all smiles, saying, "She's fine, mind your business." And that was that. Nobody pushed harder. In a place like Nembi, where everybody's just trying to survive, poverty makes you look the other way, even when you know a child's hurting. It's not right, but it's real. And Charity, she learned quick that nobody was coming to save her. Charity's life became a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Esther didn't stop at selling her. She made sure Charity knew she had nowhere to go, no way out. The first time Charity tried to run, I think she really believed she could make it. She slipped out at dawn, when the village was still quiet, and hid in the mangroves, her heart pounding with a flicker of hope. She'd heard stories of girls escaping to Yenagoa or Port Harcourt, finding work, starting over. She thought maybe she could find her brothers, maybe they'd take her in. But the mangroves weren't a safe place for a girl like her. Esther found her by midday, her eyes blazing with fury, like Charity had betrayed her by trying to live. She dragged her back by the hair, nails digging into her scalp, and beat her until she couldn't stand. "You're mine," Esther hissed, her voice like poison. "You don't get to leave. You owe me for every kobo I've spent on you." Esther used it like a weapon, and the beatings, they became routine. She'd flog her mercilessly, as the neighbors later whispered, using a cane, a belt, sometimes just her hands, leaving welts on Charity's back, her arms, her legs. "You'll work until I say you're done," Esther would scream, her voice echoing through the house. Charity learned to stop fighting. She learned to be quiet, to do what she was told, because fighting only made it worse. The men kept coming, night after night, their faces blurring into one long nightmare. Fishermen with rough hands, traders with sly grins, even men from the church who'd pray on Sunday and sin on Monday. Esther would collect the money, as she called it, stuffing the naira notes into a tin under her mat, muttering, "We need to eat." But Charity, she wasn't eating much. She was wasting away, her body shrinking, her spirit breaking. She stopped going to school. Esther wouldn't let her, said it was a waste of time. Her notebook, the one she used to write her stories in, sat under her mat, gathering dust. The pages were still there, full of mermaids and moons, but Charity didn't touch them anymore. She couldn't. The girl who wrote those stories was gone. The village knew something was wrong, I mean, they had to. Nembi's too small for secrets to stay secret. Mama Abi tried to talk to Charity more than once, asking, "Child, what's going on? You don't smile anymore." But Esther was always there, cutting in with that fake smile, saying, "She's fine, just helping the family." Papa Tombra saw the bruises once, when Charity was fetching water, and he asked her straight, "Who's beating you, girl?" But Charity, she was too scared to speak. She'd just shake her head, mumble, "Nobody," and hurry off. Then came the pregnancy. Charity was 16, and her body, it wasn't even hers anymore, not really. Too many men, too many nights, she didn't even know who the father was, and how could she? She figured it out one morning when she couldn't keep her food down, when her belly started to swell just a little. Maybe this baby could be a new start, a reason to keep going. She told Esther, thinking, praying, her mama might see it that way too. "Mama, I'm pregnant," she whispered, her voice shaking, her hands clasped tight. But Esther's face, it twisted, like she'd tasted something sour. "We'll fix it," she said, her voice cold, sharp, like a blade. "You can't keep it. It'll ruin everything. Fix it." He took Charity to a shack by the river, a filthy place that smelled like decay and despair. The doctor wasn't a doctor at all, just a man with a rusted table and tools that looked like they'd never been cleaned. Charity begged, "Mama, please, no," her voice breaking, tears streaming down her face. But Esther, she didn't even flinch. She shoved a rag in Charity's mouth to muffle her screams, held her down while the quack did his work. Dear viewers, thank you for joining Charity's heartbreaking journey. If you know someone trapped in abuse, speak up. Silence enables pain. Do you think this story deserves a part 2? Like and subscribe for more Niger mystic magic tales. Will Charity survive the horrors of her mother's betrayal? Will Esther ever face justice for what she's done? Can Charity escape her nightmare, or is she trapped forever? Will the village finally stand up, or will silence prevail?